from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast, Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. We've got a great episode for all y'all today with a critical Apache Commons Zeroday. A critical RCE vulnerability has been discovered in Cobalt Strike. Zoom for macOS also has some issues. Microsoft fixes their TLS Handshake situation, and Hong Kong under the threat of the CCP once again with a 1-year takeover of their government infrastructure. All that on this morning's show, but I'd be remiss if I didn't start it off with my double espresso this morning. Whatever you're drinking, make it yours. Let it power you through this Tuesday, because we're sure going to need it to get through the show today. Lots of vulnerabilities, lots of zero days, very few patches. Coffee cup cheers. James, did you say very few patches? I did say very few patches. That's right. Here we go. So a critical security hole that affects the Apache Commons text has been compared to the notorious Log4Shell vulnerability, but it's just not as widespread. While Apache Commons text is an open source Java library designed for working with strings, a GitHub security lab researcher by the name of Alvaro Munez discovered in March that the library is affected by an arbitrary code execution vulnerability related to untrusted data processing and variable interpolation. The Flaw tracked the CVE 2022-42889er was patched by Apache Commons developers last week with the release of version 1.10.0. Apache Commons text is used by many developers and orgs, but some have rushed to describe CVE 2022-42889er as the next Log4Shell vulnerability that impacts the widely used Log4j Java login framework, and it's been exploited in many attacks since its disclosure nearly a year ago. It's been named Text4Shell or Act4Shell because of its similarity to Log4j. Analyzing the vulnerability, there says that the nature is unlike Log4j, where it's rare that an application uses the vulnerable component of common text to process untrusted and potentially malicious input. Again, the product's one thing, how you use it, how you implement it is another. This one's there. Make sure you're updating. Make sure the way you're using it doesn't allow for this vulnerability to take advantage. A critical RCE vulnerability has been discovered in the Cobolt Strike hacking software. The Help Systems, the company behind Cobalt Strike software platform, has released an out-of-band security update to address a remote code execution vulnerability that could allow an attacker to take control of a targeted system. Cobalt, which is a red team framework that's mainly used for adversary simulation and cracked versions of the software, has been actively abused by ransomware operators and espionage-focused advanced persistent threats APT groups alike. The post-exploitation tool consists of a team server, which functions as a command and control component and a beacon. The default malware used to create the connection to the team server and to drop the next payload. The issue tracked the CVE 2022-429er48, affects Cobalt Strike version 4.7.1, and stems from an incomplete patch released on September 20th to rectify a cross-site scripting vulnerability that could lead to remote code execution. So it was found to be triggered in specific cases using the Java Swing framework, the graphical user interface toolkit that was used to design Cobalt Strike. So you want to make sure you keep an eye on that. Zoom for macOS contains a high-risk security flaw. So Zoom has rolled out a high-priority patch for macOS users alongside a warning that hackers could abuse the software flaw to connect and control Zoom apps. The vulnerabilities carries a CVSS score of 7.3 out of 10 and is documented as a debugging port misconfiguration that's opened by the Zoom client on macOS machines. Make sure you update your Macs. Here, gentlemen and ladies, security gang. Microsoft fixes the Windows TLS handshake failures in an out-of-band update. So another out-of-band update here, where Microsoft issuing a non-security update to address the issue triggering the SSL and TLS handshake failures on the client and server platforms. On affected devices, users will see a sec_illegal_ message error in application when connecting to servers experience issues. We addressed an issue that may affect some types of SSL and TLS connections. These connections might have handshake failures, according to Microsoft. The out-of-band patch has been released, and it's available via the Microsoft Update catalog. And finally, rushing through the show today, y'all. Hackers compromised the Hong Kong government's org's network for nearly a year. Researchers of Symantec uncovered a cyber attack attributed to a China-linked cyber espionage actor, APT41, that breached government organizations in Hong Kong and remained undetected for a year in some cases. The threat actor was using a custom malware called Spider Loader, which has been previously attributed to the group. Researchers at Cybereason discovered Operation Cockabees, which has been underway since 2019, focusing on high-tech and manufacturing firms in North America, East Asia, and Western Europe. The Spider Loader, in Operation Cockabee, Winity used a new version of the Spider Loader backdoor. Semantics report indicates that the hackers continue to evolve the malware, developing several variants on all targets, all with the same functions, using the crypto PP C++ library, abuse of the run DLL32exe, and compiled as a 64-bit DLL modified copy of the SQLite 3 DLL for managing SQL databases. Semantics said that they observed the deployment of the Mimikatz password extractor in the latest campaigns, allowing the threat actor to burrow deeper into the victim's network. So China is even going after its own. After taking over the poor folks of Hong Kong, they're still targeting their government. That's it for our show today, folks. We'll be back with a whole lot more tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.